Chapter 3. Self-Confidence and Mental Mastery. Eliminating the Fear of Public Speaking. Think positively and masterfully with confidence and faith, and life becomes more secure, more fraught with action, richer in experience and achievement. By Eddie Rickenbacker. Your goal when you speak is to stand up confidently, positive, relaxed, and feeling wonderful about yourself. Your ideal is to feel happy to be there, just as you would feel at a family Christmas party. Here's the question. How do you achieve this state of calmness, clarity, and confidence in front of any audience? This is what you will learn in this chapter. First, realize that stage fright is normal and natural, even for professionals who have appeared on the stage thousands of times. David Niven, the British actor, admitted that even after thousands of performances, he still threw up every single time before he went on stage. According to the Book of Lists, 54% of adults rate fear of public speaking ahead of the fear of death. But as they say, there's nothing wrong with having butterflies in your stomach. Your goal is to get them to fly in formation. All fears are learned. The good news is that children are born with no fears at all. All fears that you have as an adult are the result of childhood experiences and negative reinforcement, both from others and from yourself. Because these fears, including the fear of speaking in front of an audience, have been learned, they can be unlearned as well. The primary cause of adult fears is destructive criticism in childhood. When parents destructively criticize a child for any reason, he or she soon develops fears of failure and rejection. The fear of rejection or criticism leads to hypersensitivity to the opinions of others later in life. Psychologists also say that almost all mental and emotional problems stem back to love withheld as a child. This happens when the parent, in an attempt to manipulate and control the child, gives or withholds love as a tool to influence the child's behavior. As a result, the child soon concludes, as long as I do what mommy or daddy wants, I'm safe. If I don't do what they approve of, I'm not safe. A child who is subjected to destructive criticism or love withheld becomes an adult who is overly concerned with the opinions of other people and their attitudes toward him. In extreme cases, the hypersensitive person can become so afraid and insecure that he cannot do anything until he is sure the key people in his life approve. Many people are traumatized by the very idea of standing up and speaking in front of others. This is a manifestation of the fears of failure and rejection instilled in the child prior to the age of 5. But these feelings can be replaced with feelings of confidence, calmness, competence, and self-control. Many of today's top speakers were so nervous at one time that they trembled at the very thought of speaking in front of others, even in staff meetings. A friend of mine, who speaks confidently to thousands of people today, wet his pants and had to run off the stage at his first public talk. Start with your message. Confident public speaking begins with having a message that you really want people to hear. This is extremely important. When somebody tells me that he or she wants to be a better speaker, my first question is, why? What is it that this person feels so strongly about that she wants to share her ideas with others? Alas, in many cases, people want to be successful speakers so that they can earn a lot of money or gain the praise and acclaim of others. They've given little or no thought to their subjects. In my experience, these people seldom ever rise above mediocrity. But if you have a subject that you feel strongly about and you want to share with others, you will find a way to become effective in expressing yourself. Some years ago, I heard Wally Amos, the founder of famous Amos Cookies, give a talk on combating adult illiteracy. He was dedicating a good deal of his time and money to helping adults learn how to read. When he spoke to the 600 adults in the audience, he spoke from his heart. He obviously had no particular training as a speaker, but he had organized his thoughts and ideas in a logical sequence. He spoke with great sincerity about the importance of adults learning how to read and how it could change their lives. At the end of his talk, he got a standing ovation from the entire room. He was speaking from his heart on a subject he understood and cared about. The audience is on your side. The starting point of overcoming your fears or nervousness in public speaking is to realize that when you stand up to speak, everyone in the audience wants you to succeed. It is very much like going to a movie. Have you ever gone to a movie hoping that it would be a bad movie and a waste of time? Of course not. When you go to a movie, you are wishing and hoping that it will be a good movie and that it will justify the time and expense you have invested. It's the same when you give a talk. The audience members are pulling for you. They all want you to succeed, exactly as if they were attending a prize ceremony for you. They're there to cheer you on. They are eagerly wishing and hoping that your talk will be successful and enjoyable. To put it another way, when you stand up to speak, you start with an A. You already have a top grade. Your job is merely to keep your A during the course of your remarks. Remember the Toastmasters process of systematic desensitization. By standing up and speaking over and over again, you'll eventually lose most of your fear and trepidation. There is nothing that is more helpful in developing confidence than repetition. There are several specific techniques you can use to overcome fear and anxiety when you speak. The best speakers in the world use these methods continually. The first is to verbalize. Fully 95% of your emotions are determined by what you tell yourself. That is, your self-talk largely controls how you think, feel, and act. And you have complete control over the words that are flowing through your conscious mind. The most powerful words that you can use to prepare yourself mentally for a speech or for any event are the words, "I like myself." Before you get up to speak, say to yourself over and over, "I like myself. I like myself. I like myself." These words have a wonderful effect in raising your self-esteem and lowering your fears. The more you like yourself, the more confident you will become. The more you like yourself, the more relaxed you will be. The more you like yourself, the more you like the people you are speaking to. And the more you like yourself, the better you will perform when you get up to speak. When you are feeling nervous or afraid for any reason, you can short-circuit these fears by repeating, "I can do it. I can do it. I can do it." The fears of failure and rejection are expressed in the notion, "I can't do it, I can't." When you say the words, "I can do it," you cancel out the negative message, thought, or feeling, and short-circuit the fear. When you try this for the first time, you'll be amazed at how much better you feel and how much more confidently you speak. The second way to develop courage and confidence is to visualize. All improvement in your outer performance begins with an improvement in your mental pictures. When you create a clear, positive, exciting mental image of yourself speaking effectively, your subconscious mind accepts this image as a command and then gives you the words, feelings, and gestures that are consistent with your mental picture. You should see yourself standing calm, confident, relaxed, and smiling as you address your audience. See the audience leaning towards you, smiling, laughing, enjoying, and hanging on every word you say, as if you were amazingly intelligent and entertaining. Here are 2 visualization techniques you can use. We call these internal and external visualization. With external visualization, you imagine yourself up on the stage as though you were a third party or an audience member looking on. You see yourself standing there, calmly, confident, and erect, totally relaxed and fluent in your subject. You see yourself as someone else watching you sees you speak to the group. With internal visualization, on the other hand, you see yourself and your audience through your own eyes. You imagine the audience around you responding to you in a positive way. You can alternate back and forth, seeing yourself from the inside and then seeing yourself from the outside, both in a positive way. This impresses your subconscious mind with a picture of you performing at your very best. Your subconscious mind will then respond by giving you the thoughts and feelings consistent with your picture. Programming your mind. Another way to develop confidence and calmness in public speaking is to visualize yourself giving your talk in an excellent fashion, especially before you fall asleep. Your subconscious mind is more amenable to reprogramming in the last few minutes before you doze off and in the first few minutes after you wake up than at any other time in the day. When you are falling asleep, visualize yourself giving a wonderful talk to an upcoming audience. This last impression soaks into your subconscious mind and affects you at a deep level while you sleep. The more often you repeat this exercise, the more calm and confident you will be when it actually comes time for you to speak to your audience. This method of mental rehearsal is very powerful. Another way to build confidence is to emotionalize. You can actually get the feeling that you would like to have if you were already a successful and popular speaker. In other words, you can manufacture the emotions of happiness, joy, pride, excitement, and confidence by creating these feelings in yourself prior to speaking. You do this by imagining that you have just given a wonderful talk and everyone is standing, smiling, cheering, and clapping. You then imagine feeling wonderful about yourself and the great job that you have just done. When you are by yourself, create these feelings exactly as they would exist if your talk was as successful as you desire. Generate these feelings and combine them with the statement, "I give a wonderful talk every time." Combine these feelings with the visual picture you have of yourself as a fluent and competent professional speaker. Famous psychologist and philosopher William James once said, "The very best way to achieve a feeling is to act as if you already had that feeling." The actions are much more under the control of the will than the feelings. If you act as if you already had a feeling, you actually trigger that feeling. This is the key to successful acting and stage performances of all kinds. Another good emotionalizing technique is called the end-of-the-movie method. To understand this method, imagine that you arrive at your local theater to see a movie, but you are early, and the previous showing of the movie you have come to see is not quite finished. Nonetheless, you buy your ticket, you go in, and you sit down and watch the last 10 minutes of the movie you've come to see. You see how the drama resolves itself and how everything works out well for everyone in the end. When the movie lets out, you go back to the lobby for a few minutes until the movie starts again. You then go back into the theater and watch it from the beginning. Only this time, you already know how it ends. You know that the movie ends well, with the twists and the turns of the plot all resolved successfully. As a result of knowing the end, you're much more relaxed as the plot unfolds. You enjoy the various scenes without becoming emotional because you know it ends well. In the same way, you use the end-of-the-movie technique for each speech you give. Imagine that you have reached the end of your talk and everyone is smiling and applauding. You've done a wonderful job. You feel happy, proud, and excited. Your friends in the audience are smiling with appreciation and pleasure. You imagine the end of your speech before you even begin to give it. You can practice this method alone, over and over, before you speak. You will be amazed at how often your speech will end exactly how you visualized it. Another way to motivate yourself and build self-confidence is to actualize. Here is an important discovery. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a real event and an event that you vividly imagine. For example, if you have an actual success experience, your subconscious mind records that as one success experience. This remembered success experience will give you greater confidence in the next similar experience, especially in speaking. However, if you visualize, emotionalize, and imagine a successful experience, even if you have not had it yet, as far as your subconscious mind is concerned, you are actually having that experience in the outside world. So, if you visualize and replay a positive speaking experience 10 or 20 or 50 times in your mind, your subconscious records that you have just given 10 or 20 or 50 successful talks, all ending in standing ovations and happy audiences. When you practice this method, repeating your mental picture of success over and over, your subconscious mind finally becomes so convinced that you are excellent at speaking that you just naturally feel the calmness, clarity, and confidence that go along with being a complete professional every time you stand up to speak. When you bring the three together, verbalization, visualization, and emotionalization, you actually program your subconscious mind for success and prepare yourself to speak well in front of any audience. Last-minute confidence builders. Much of the mental preparation for public speaking can be done far in advance, but there are a few things speakers can do to calm their nerves immediately before speaking and thereby improve their performances. Check out the room. When it's time for you to give your speech, arrive early and check out the room completely. Go up on the stage and stand behind the lectern. Walk around the room so that you can see where you will be speaking from the point of view of the audience. Speak to some of the early arrivals and ask them questions about where they're from and what they do. Ask for their names and give them your name. The more you talk to different audience participants before you stand up to speak, the more relaxed you will be. You'll actually feel as if you are among friends. When you're introduced and you begin speaking, seek out the people in the audience whom you spoke to earlier and look at them directly, smiling, as though this were a one-to-one conversation with an old friend. This will cause you to relax and feel in complete control of your material. Do some breathing exercises for relaxation. Immediately prior to speaking, you can relax yourself and prepare to give an excellent talk by breathing deeply several times. The best formula for deep breathing is what I call the 7x7x7 method. What you do is you breathe in deeply as possible, to the slow count of 7. You then hold your breath to the count of 7, and then exhale slowly to the count of 7. You repeat this breathing exercise 7 times, breathing in, holding your breath, and letting it out slowly. When you breathe deeply and hold it, you briefly drop into the alpha level of mind. Clear your thinking, calm your nerves, and prepare yourself to speak well. Pump yourself up. Just before you are introduced, say to yourself, "This is a great talk. I can hardly wait. This is going to be a great speech." Repeat to yourself, "I like myself. I like myself. I like myself." Say these words with emotion, like you're trying to convince someone on the other side of the room that you really believe the words. The more emotionally you speak to yourself, the greater the positive impact it has on your subconscious and on your behavior. Wiggle your toes. One way to increase your confidence and lower your fears is to wiggle your toes just before you go up to speak. As it happens, when you are really happy and excited, especially as a child, you wiggle your toes. When you wiggle your toes before you speak, it makes you more positive and enthusiastic. It actually makes you smile and feel happy. Remember, the actions create the feelings, just as the feelings create the actions. Roll your shoulders. Because much of a person's tension centers in the back and shoulders before a speech, you can relax yourself by rolling your shoulders several times. Shake your hands loosely, as if you were trying to shake water off of your fingers. This act seems to relieve tension and stress as well. When you combine them all, deep breathing, shoulder rolling, hand shaking, and toe wiggling, you'll feel relaxed, happy, and eager to speak. Stand erect. When you stand up to speak, hold your head up straight and erect. Imagine that there is a string running from the top of your head to the ceiling and that you are dangling from the string. Thinking of a string holding your head erect actually makes you stand up straighter and gives your entire bearing an attitude of confidence and power. Think about your audience. Find a way to put yourself in a position of power over the audience mentally. For example, before you begin speaking, imagine that the audience is made up of people who owe you money. They have all come here to ask you to give them more time to pay. You can also imagine that the audience members are sitting there in their underwear. This mental picture makes you smile to yourself, reduces tension, and makes your talk more effective. When you think about your audience members like this, you become far more relaxed when speaking to them. Be grateful. A great way to increase your confidence with an audience is to practice gratitude for having this opportunity to speak. Say to yourself, I am so grateful that I have a chance to speak to these people. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Imagine that you really care about the audience. Say over and over to yourself, I love my audience. I love my audience. I love my audience. Professional speakers are familiar with the expression, the privilege of the platform. When you stand up to speak, always think of the wonderful privilege you have to be able to share your ideas with these remarkable people. The more grateful you are for the opportunity to speak to them, the more positive and enthusiastic you'll be with every word. The more you genuinely like and care about the people you are speaking to, the more confident you will be. The more you see them as friends who like you and whom you like in return, the more relaxed you will be. Remember finally that it's not about you. It's about them. Get out of yourself and your personal concerns about what they may think of you. Instead, project into the minds of your audience mentally and emotionally and think exclusively about them. My friend Cavett Robert, founder of the National Speakers Association and a wonderful man, once said that as a young speaker he would rush onto the stage with the attitude of, "Here I am." He said that he only began to become an excellent speaker when he reversed his attitude. Instead of thinking, "Here I am," he would hurry onto the stage with the feeling of, "Wow, there you are." When you begin to see your audience as a room full of wonderful, exceptional, warm, charming, and interesting people, you'll have the same attitude of, "Wow, there you are," and your fears will diminish. You will become calm, confident, warm, friendly, and positive. You'll be on your way to becoming one of the best speakers in your field. To summarize, mental fitness is like physical fitness, based on a series of exercises practiced over and over. When you apply these methods and techniques for calmness and mental mastery before you speak, you'll soon feel calm, confident, and in complete control every time. Chapter 4. Start strong with any audience. The beginning is the most important part of any work, especially in the case of a young and tender thing, for that is the time at which the character is being formed and the desired impression is more readily taken. Plato. You've heard the saying, first impressions are lasting. You never get a second chance to create a good first impression. I'm sure you've also heard this one as well. Well begun is half done. When you start your speech, you must focus everything on making a positive first impression on your audience members. This opens them up and prepares them to listen to and be affected by your remarks. Your introduction. If you're making a presentation where someone is introducing you, it's the introduction that sets the stage. The purpose of the introduction is to build expectancy in the audience. Its goal is to cause the audience to lean forward mentally and emotionally to hear what you have to say. Therefore, you must carefully plan your introduction in advance. A good introduction sets the stage by telling the audience about your accomplishments. It then leads to the title of your speech. Your name comes last. Depending on the topic or length of your talk, it can be brief or expanded. Here's a short example. Our speaker tonight has started 22 businesses and made more than $1 million in 8 different enterprises. Today he's going to tell us how we can succeed in business by really trying. Please put your hands together and help me welcome Mr. Brian Tracy. A longer introduction would include more details about the background and accomplishments of the speaker, especially as they relate to the subject. The focus is always on building expectancy and credibility so that the audience members have the attitude of, I can hardly wait to hear what this person has to say. After the introduction. Lots of things need to happen between the end of the introduction and the beginning of your speech. So keep the next 5 things in mind as you are taking the stage. They will help you make a positive impression on the audience and set the right tone for your speech. Step up confidently. When you are introduced, step up to the podium and shake hands with the introducer. Give him or her a hug if it is appropriate. Let the introducer leave the stage and then turn to the audience. Start with silence to settle and to center the audience. Smile and sweep your eyes slowly around the room for a few seconds, as if you're really happy to be there with these people. As you stand silently smiling, the audience will very quickly settle down, becoming silent and attentive, waiting for you to begin. When the tension is palpable and everyone is silent, begin with a strong, clear, friendly, interesting, attention-grabbing opening statement that leads into your talk and ties into your closing remarks. Look the part. The rule here is that nothing in your clothes or grooming should distract from you or your message. People make a decision about you in the first 30 seconds. For this reason, your image, your dress, grooming, and stance are all very important. Your appearance tells the audience how you think and feel about yourself. It's an expression of your own self-image. Your appearance also tells the audience members how you think and feel about them. The rule is, if it doesn't help, it hurts. Many speakers think that it is cool to get up in front of an audience dressed casually, as if they had just been working in the garden. But what this often tells the audience is that you respect neither yourself nor them. This impression downgrades the perceived value of what you have to say. Time and time again, my clients hold their annual meetings in beautiful resorts in the South and West. They will say, everyone will be dressed country club casual, and that I'm welcome to dress casually as well. I never take them up on their offer. The rule is to always dress equal to or better than your audience. You must always look like a professional. A friend of mine is a good young speaker, but he grew up in a poor home. As a result, he was not particularly knowledgeable about proper dress or choice of accessories. Someone had given him a large gold pinky ring for Christmas. He wore it on his small finger and waved it around as he spoke. He thought it was attractive. On one occasion, after he gave a speech, the meeting organizer took him aside and said, you're a good person and you have a good message, but when you wear that pinky ring, you look like a pimp. He had no idea he was making that impression. He took it off and never wore it again. Build positive expectations. Your first job is to raise expectations. You want to make the audience members feel glad that they came. You want them to be open and eager to hear more. Remember that everyone in your audience wants you to succeed. They are already on your side. They sincerely want your talk to be a good one. Your first words should confirm that it will be. It is important that the audience like you from the start. The more likable people perceive you to be, the more open the audience members will be to your message, and the less resistant they will be to any controversial points or ideas that you bring up. Take charge immediately. When you stand up to speak, you become the leader. The people in the audience want you to be in control. They want you to take charge of the room. Act as if you own the room and as if everyone works for you. They will follow your commands. When you're introduced, walk straight to where you will be speaking, shoulders up, smiling and confident, with your eyes wide open and your chin up. Be alert and aware and walk briskly, with energy and determination. When you begin speaking, focus on a single person in the audience. Start off by speaking directly and warmly to him or her. Then, casually move on to another face, and then another, and then another. This direct eye contact slows you down, calms your nerves, and helps you to develop a relationship with the people in your audience. Be authentic and humble. The very best way to be liked is to be both authentic and humble. You achieve authenticity by being genuine and open. You can appear a little embarrassed and overwhelmed by the positive attention the audience is giving to you. Smile openly and warmly as your eyes sweep the audience. You exude humility by not appearing as if you know it all, or as if you are superior to the audience in any way. Sometimes after I receive a glowing introduction, I will turn to the introducer and say, "Thank you. You read that exactly the way my wife wrote it. But I still can't get my kids to go to bed when I tell them." There's several different ways to start a speech. Now that you're in the spotlight, how do you get the ball rolling? There are several ways that you can start a talk effectively. All of them are intended to engage your audience right off the bat so that you have everyone's full attention for the duration of your speech. Thank the organizers. You can start by thanking the audience for coming and thanking the organization for inviting you to speak. Refer to the person who introduced you or to one or more of the senior people in the organization in the audience. This compliments them, makes them feel proud and happy about your presence, and connects you to the audience like an electrical plug in a socket. Start with a positive statement. You can begin by telling the audience members how much they will like and enjoy what you have to say. For example, you might say, "You are really going to enjoy the time we spend together this evening. I'm going to share with you some of the most important ideas that have ever been discovered in this area." Compliment the audience. You can begin by complimenting the audience members sincerely and with great respect. Smile as though you're really glad to see them, as if they were all old friends of yours that you haven't seen for quite a while. You can tell them that it's a great honor for you to be here, that they are some of the most important people in this business or industry, and that you're looking forward to sharing some key ideas with them. You could say something like, "It's an honor to be here with you today. You are the elite, the top 10% of people in this industry. Only the very best people in any field will take the time and make the sacrifice to come so far for a conference like this." Make a thought-provoking statement about the audience. Often when I'm speaking to the members of an entrepreneurial or networking group, I will start off with, "Thank you very much for having me. I was just told today that I would be addressing a room full of self-made millionaires." After making this statement, I stand silently, smiling and looking around, allowing my words to soak in. I then continue by saying, "What I learned was that everyone here is either a self-made millionaire or you intend to be sometime in the future. Is that correct?" This opening always brings a loud chorus of yes. Everyone smiles and agrees that his or her goal is to be a self-made millionaire. After this kind of opening, everybody is wide awake, alert, and ready to hear what else I have to say. Refer to current events. Use a current front-page news story to transition into your subject and to illustrate or prove your point. You can even bring a copy of the newspaper for that day and hold it up as you refer to it in your introduction. This visual image of you holding the paper and reciting or reading a key point rivets the audience's attention and causes people to lean forward to hear what you have to say. Refer to a historical event. For many years, I studied military history. Especially, I studied the lives and campaigns of the great generals and the decisive battles they won. One of my favorites was Alexander the Great. One day, I was asked to give a talk on leadership principles to a room full of managers for a Fortune 500 company. I decided that the campaign of Alexander the Great against Darius of Persia would make an excellent story that would illustrate the leadership qualities of one of the great commanders in history. I opened my talk with these words. "Once upon a time, there was a young man named Alex who grew up in a poor country. But Alex was a little bit ambitious. From an early age, he decided that he wanted to conquer the entire known world. But there was a small problem. Most of the known world was under the control of a huge multinational called the Persian Empire, headed by King Darius II. To fulfill his ambition, Alex was going to have to take market share away from the market leader, who was very determined to hold on to it. This is the same situation that exists between you and your major competitors in the market today. You're going to have to use all your leadership skills to win the great marketing battles of the future." Refer to a well-known person. You can start by quoting a well-known person or publication that recently made an important statement. Here's an example. Today we're going to talk about why it is that some people earn more money than others. Gary Becker, the Nobel Prize-winning economist, wrote recently that almost all income inequality in America is the result of a knowledge and skills gap. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how you can develop the knowledge and skills you need to narrow this gap and lead your field in the years ahead. Here's another example. One of the subjects I touch upon regularly is the importance of continual personal and professional development. I will say something like, in the 21st century, knowledge and know-how are the keys to success. As basketball coach Pat Riley once said, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. You can repeat a recent conversation. Start by telling a story about a recent conversation with someone in attendance. For example, I might say, a few minutes ago I was talking with Tom Robinson in the lobby. He told me that this is one of the best times to be working in this industry, and I agree. You can make a shocking statement. You can start your talk by making a shocking statement of some kind. For example, you might say something like, according to a recent study, there will be more change, more competition, and more opportunities in this industry in the next year than ever before, and 72% of the people in this room will be doing something different within 2 years if they do not rapidly adapt to these changes. Quote from recent research. You can start by quoting from a recent research report. One example is, according to a story in a recent issue of Business Week, there were almost 9 million millionaires in America in 2007, most of them self-made, and this number is going to double by the year 2015. Give them hope. The French philosopher Gustave Le Bon once wrote, the only religion of mankind is, and always has been, hope. When you speak effectively, you give people hope of some kind. Remember, the ultimate purpose of speaking is to inspire a change of thought, feeling, and action. It is to motivate and inspire people to do things that they would not have done in the absence of your comments. Everything you say should relate to the actions you want people to take and the reasons that they should take those actions. Start with humor. Maybe. You can start a talk with humor, but only if you are naturally funny. You must be sure that the audience will interpret your story or joke as humorous. For this reason, you should try out your humor several times on other people to make sure that it works well. Only use humor if you personally think that the joke or story is funny, you can deliver it well, and the audience is likely to be receptive. Some of the best professional speakers start with humor that is so pointed and appropriate that it cracks up the audience members and grabs their complete attention. But this is an art. It takes a special type of personality to use humor effectively. Here's an important point. It is fairly easy to start with a joke of some kind. I used to do this to open almost every talk. Then I learned that my initial remarks set the tone for what is to come. If I start with humor, the audience assumes that my talk is going to be funny and entertaining. If I then switch into a more serious or thoughtful subject, people will often become confused and disappointed. Be careful. Be an entertainer. Bill Gove, one of the best speakers in America, would walk onto the stage after his introduction as if he had just finished talking to someone on the side and was breaking off to give his talk to the group. The audience got the feeling that his entire talk was one continuous conversation. Bill would often go to the edge of the stage and then drop his voice in a conspiratorial way, open his arms and beckon the audience members to come a little closer. He'd say, "Come here, let me tell you something." And then he would wave them forward as though he was about to tell a secret to the entire room. The amazing thing was that everyone in the room would lean forward to hear this secret that he was about to share. People would all suddenly realize what they were doing and break out in laughter. It was a wonderful device to get the audience into the palm of his hands. Ask a question. Conduct a survey. You can open by making a positive statement and then asking a question requiring a show of hands. Try something like this. This is a great time to be alive and in business in America. By the way, how many people here are self-employed? Raise your hand to indicate what you want people to do. I've used this line, and after a number of hands go up, I then say to someone who raised her hand in the front, how many people here are really self-employed? Invariably, someone will say, we all are. I then compliment and affirm the answer. You're right. We are all self-employed. From the time we take our first jobs to the day we retire. We all work for ourselves, no matter who signs our paycheck. Get them talking to one another. You can ask people to turn to the person next to them to discuss a particular point. For instance, you could say, tell the person next to you what you would like to learn from this seminar. Whatever you ask your audience members to do within reason, they will do for you. Your commands and your leadership will easily influence them as long as you ask them with confidence. Open with a problem. You can start with a problem that must be solved. If it is a problem that almost everyone has in common, you will immediately have the audience's complete and undivided attention. For example, you could say, fully 63% of baby boomers are moving toward retirement without enough money put aside to provide for themselves as long as they are going to live. We must address this problem and take action immediately to ensure that each person who retires will be able to live comfortably for the rest of his or her natural life. Make a statement, ask a question. You can start by making a strong statement and then asking a question. You then follow with an answer and ask another question. This gets people immediately involved and listening to your every word. Here's an example. 20% of the people in our society make 80% of the money. Are you a member of the top 20%? Pause. If not, would you like to join the top 20% or even the top 10%? Pause. Well, in the next few minutes, I'm going to give you some ideas to help you to become some of the highest paid people in our society. Would that be a good goal for our time together today? And pause. It's an interesting psychological phenomenon that people are conditioned from infancy to respond when they are asked a question. Whenever you ask a question of any kind, people instinctively and automatically answer you, even if only to themselves. When you ask, how many people here would like to double their incomes in the next 1 or 2 years? Almost all of the audience members will instinctively and automatically raise their hands or shout out agreement. Whenever you ask a question and then pause a few seconds to allow people to process the question, you take complete control of the audience. The fact is that the person who asks the questions controls the conversation and controls the person who is answering the question. Even if people do not answer aloud, they are helpless to stop themselves from answering. Sometimes I demonstrate this point by asking some common question, such as, what color is your car? Everyone in the audience automatically thinks about the answer. I ask, what is your address? People automatically and instinctively think of their addresses. People cannot not answer when they are asked questions. You can start your talk with a story. Some of the most powerful words to grab the complete attention of the audience are, once upon a time. From infancy and early childhood, people love stories of any kind. When you start off with the words, once upon a time, you tell the audience that a story is coming. People immediately settle down, become quiet, and lean forward like kids around a campfire. When I conduct full-day seminars and I want to bring people back to their seats after a break, I will say loudly, once upon a time there was a man right here in this city, and then start a story. As soon as I say these words, people hurry back to their seats and begin to listen attentively to the rest of the story. Build a bridge. One of the most important parts of starting a speech is to build a bridge between yourself and the audience members. Begin with something that you and the audience have in common. It can be the fact that you work today or have worked in the past in their industry. You may have children just as they do. You could be familiar with their town or a supporter of the local football or basketball team. You could even have a concern or problem that is similar to the concerns and problems that the members of the audience are facing in their lives or work. When you take a few minutes to build a bridge of commonality between yourself and the audience members, you immediately put them on your side. They see you as one of them. They become more open to your words and comments. They become more forgiving of any mistakes you make. They feel that you are more knowledgeable and approachable because of your common backgrounds. Tell them about yourself. Very often, I will start a speech to a business, sales, or entrepreneurial group by saying, I started off without graduating from high school. My family had no money. Everything I accomplished in life I had to do on my own with very little help from anyone else. It's amazing how many people come up to me after a talk that began with those words and tell me that that was their experience as well. They tell me that they could immediately identify with me because they too had started with poor grades and limited funds, as most people do. As a result, they were open to the rest of my talk, even a full-day seminar, and felt that everything I said was more valid and authentic than if I had been a person who started off with a successful background. Building a bridge like this is very helpful in bringing the audience onto your side. So let me summarize this chapter. The ability to start strong with any audience is a learned skill. Knowing how to structure an introduction and knowing how to take the stage can make or break your speech. And by finding ways to open your talk with greater warmth, friendliness, or impact, you can have the audience eating out of the palm of your hand within 30 seconds of beginning to speak. This is your goal. Chapter 5. Mastering Meetings with Small Groups. Peter Drucker said, "The effective man always states at the outset of a meeting the specific purpose and contribution it is to achieve. He always, at the end of his meetings, goes back to the opening statement and relates the final conclusions to the original intent." Your ability to speak well and persuasively in small meetings can have an extraordinary impact on your life and career. In business, others continually assess and evaluate you. Consciously and subconsciously, they are upgrading or downgrading their opinions of your personality, ability, competence, and level of confidence. For this reason, you must think of business meetings as important events in your career. You cannot allow a meeting with 2 or more people to unfold by chance, especially when fully 50% of management time is spent in meetings of some kind, and most people feel that 50% of this time is wasted because of poor planning and organization. Peter Drucker once wrote, "The meeting is an essential tool of the executive." An executive is defined as anyone who is responsible for results. According to this definition, virtually everyone is an executive of some kind, including yourself. Small group meetings are important. Many of your presentations and speaking engagements will be with smaller groups of people, sometimes as few as 1 or 2 others. These meetings, just like a large talk or presentation, must be prepared for and planned with care. How you perform can make or break your career. Some years ago, I was conducting a strategic planning exercise with a large company. Executives were brought in from all over the country and from distant branches. At the meeting, several of the executives from the head office were clearly detached and uncaring about how the strategic planning session unfolded. But there were 2 young executives from distant branches who were thoroughly prepared and active participants in every question brought up during the discussions. At one of the breaks, I was doing a debrief with the president of the company about the progress of the meeting. He said to me, "Did you notice how important the contributions of those 2 guys have been to this meeting?" It was clear to everyone that these 2 executives were more prepared and involved than any of the others, and he, the president, was obviously impressed. About a month later, in the business section of the local newspaper, there was an announcement that both of these executives had been promoted to vice president. Some years later, one of those executives became the president of a billion-dollar company. His contributions at the meeting as a young manager registered with everyone and reverberated throughout his career. A few months after that, the company also announced the early retirements of the senior executives from the head office who had sat there silently and contributed nothing to the meeting. Their careers in that company, and maybe in their careers, were finished. Prepare thoroughly. The starting point of meeting effectiveness is thorough preparation. Preparation is immediately obvious to everyone who attends, as is the failure to prepare. If you are running the meeting, plan it. Prepare an agenda. Select the people whom you are going to invite and inform them of their expected contributions. Organize the meeting as though it were an important part of your business life, because it is. If you are an attendee at a meeting, plan your participation. Find out the purpose of the meeting, and then be sure that you have something to contribute. Many people who attend business meetings sit quietly while the meeting goes on. But unfortunately, those who say nothing at a meeting are presumed to have nothing to say. This is not the kind of message you want to convey. Consider the importance of seating. Arrive early at the meeting so that you can choose your seat with care. If it is your meeting, sit with your back to a wall, facing the entrance so that you have visual command and control of the room, and you can see everyone entering and leaving. When I hold meetings, especially if they're important, I specifically designate where each person is going to sit in the meeting. This ensures that I have the most important people sitting in the most important places. If it is someone else's meeting, select a place where you can sit facing the door and either kitty corner or directly opposite the meeting leader. If you are not sure, ask the meeting leader where he or she would like you to sit, but you still have some control, and you should use it to your best advantage. Don't be afraid to ask if you can sit in a particular place, or if you can change seats with someone else so that you have your back to a wall or where you have greater eye contact with the key person in the meeting. This is essential to making your most valuable contribution and to being the most persuasive. Be punctual. Start on time. Assume that the latecomer is not coming and begin. Thank the participants for coming and give the reason for the meeting. Explain the structure of the meeting and how it will be conducted. Give the end time for the meeting so that everyone knows when it will be over. Now, there are several types of meetings. Basically, there are 4 different types of business meetings. These include 1. Problem solving. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss a problem and agree on a solution. 2. Information sharing. The purpose of the meeting is to share information, make announcements, and be sure that everyone is informed of changes and assignments. 3. New product announcements. The purpose of the meeting is to familiarize all the participants with new products and services that the company is offering or thinking about offering. And 4. Team building. The purpose of the meeting is to bring people together to talk about what they are doing and the progress they are making. Team building meetings are powerful forms of developing the esprit de corps that is essential to a company. The meeting leader. If you are leading the meeting, you should be thoroughly prepared with handouts to inform and illustrate to the participants the points you want to cover. If you are using PowerPoint or flip charts, you should prepare and practice with them thoroughly in advance. Be sure that you have everything that you need to conduct the meeting smoothly and professionally. With your meeting agenda, start with the most important items first. This ensures that if you run out of time because of extended discussions, you will have covered the 20% of items that account for 80% of the value. The active participant. If you are a meeting participant, make a point of asking a question, making a statement, or taking a position within the first 5 minutes. People who speak up in the first 5 minutes take on a more dominant and significant role in the meeting in the eyes of other participants. People who fail to speak up until much later are often ignored or not considered to be of particular importance. The goal of any meeting, to a large group or a small group, is action of some kind. As the group discusses each item, you or someone else should be asking or insisting upon the action or actions that are going to take place as a result of this discussion and agreement. Volunteer for responsibilities. One way to be an active participant is to offer to do what needs doing. In every organization and on every team, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. The participants who ask for action and continually volunteer for more responsibility are seen by everyone as the most important and significant members of the team. When a subject has been discussed, you should ask, what is our action plan for this item? What do we do next? Raise your hand and volunteer to accept responsibility for action on various items. The more you volunteer, the more valuable you will appear to the most important people in the meeting. Prepare in advance. When you are expected to contribute specific information at a meeting, you can always use the PREP formula. Begin by stating your point of view. Give your reasons for holding this point of view. Follow up with an example of why your reasoning is correct, and then restate your point of view to round off your contribution. This is an extremely effective way of impressing the meeting planners and participants with your level of preparation. Persuading others. The key to success in a meeting is for you to be persuasive. It lets you affect the direction of the discussion and influence the final decisions and conclusions with your input. To be persuasive in a meeting, the meeting participants must like you. To be liked, you must be likable. People must willingly support you and approve of your ideas and your positions. The key to increasing your influence and persuading others to support and agree with you is simple. Make others feel important. There are 6 things, the 6 A's, that you can practice to make others feel more valuable in a meeting or in any other social or business situation. They are essential if you want to speak to win. The number 1, the first A, is acceptance. One of the deepest needs of human beings is to be unconditionally accepted by others. You express your acceptance of others by looking directly at them and smiling, both when they come in and when they say something or contribute to the meeting. This makes the individual feel valuable and important. It raises his or her self-esteem and improves his or her self-image. It also causes the person, at a subconscious level, to want to support you in the things that you suggest or say later. The second A is appreciation. Any time that you express appreciation to other people for anything that they have done or said, you raise their self-esteem and increase your likability in their eyes. The easiest way to express appreciation is to simply say thank you for everything and anything that the person does or says that is helpful or constructive. You can thank people for arriving on time. You can thank people for contributing a piece of information. You can thank people for making a comment or for assisting or correcting you. Whenever you thank someone for anything, you encourage that person to repeat the behavior and to make even more valuable contributions. When a person is thanked, he feels more valuable, respected, and important. The words thank you are powerful in building your likability and ensuring that others cooperate with you and support your positions. The third A is admiration. Abraham Lincoln once said, "Everybody likes a compliment." When you compliment people on anything that they do or say, or on any of their possessions, they feel more valuable and important, and they like you more as a result. Continually look for ways to compliment people. You can admire a person's briefcase, purse, or pen. You can admire an item of his clothing or appearance. If he presents a piece of information, you can compliment him on how excellent it looks or sounds. Even looking at a person, smiling and nodding in a complimentary way can cause him or her to feel more valuable and important and to like and support you when you propose something later. The fourth A is approval. You may have heard the saying, "Babies cry for it and grown men die for it." People need approval from others, especially people whom they look up to and respect. Every time you give praise and approval of any kind to anyone for any reason, you raise that person's self-esteem, improve her self-image, and make her feel better about herself and about you. The keys to giving approval are to make it both immediate and specific. When someone contributes something of value or presents a piece of helpful information to the group, immediately praise the information by saying something like, "This is very good work." Be specific. Say something like, "These figures are very impressive. They look great." The more that you appraise and approve the work and contributions of other people, the more and better contributions they will make, and the more they will like you and support your ideas and points of view later. The fifth A is attention. People always pay attention to people and things that they most value. As the saying goes, life is the study of attention. Whenever you pay close attention to another person, he or she feels more valuable and important. The key to paying attention is to listen closely when another person speaks and not to interrupt. Look at the person directly and hang on every word. Nod, smile, and agree as if what the person is saying is extraordinarily important and insightful. When others feel that they are being closely listened to, their self-esteem goes up. Their brains release endorphins, and they feel happier and more positive about themselves and their work. They associate you with this good feeling, and your influence over them goes up tremendously. Number 6 is agreement. The final A that you can practice in any meeting with any number of people is to be generally agreeable with others. You can be agreeable even if you disagree with someone's point of view. When someone says something or makes a point that you don't agree with, instead of challenging him, which puts him on the defensive and makes him angry, say something like, "That is an interesting point. I had not thought of that before. It clashes a bit with my own idea, but I would like to understand it better." If you must disagree, use what is called third-party disagreement. Instead of saying, "I disagree with you," or "you're wrong," you can say, "That is an interesting point." But how would you answer the question that another person might ask if he or she were to challenge this point by saying such and such a thing? In other words, put your disagreement into the mouth of a non-existent or non-present third party. Ask the person to defend his point of view to a person who is not present. This takes the pressure off of the individual and enables him to defend his point of view without having to feel defensive or under attack by anyone in that particular meeting. Avoid criticism or negativity. If you are leading a meeting, you have tremendous power. Everyone looks up to and defers to you as the leader. Everything you say is magnified and multiplied either in a positive or negative way. When other people are contributing to the meeting, you should nod, smile, and support them. When someone is in a meeting with others, he or she is on the stage when he speaks. Any comment from anyone in the room, especially from a person senior to him, puts him under a spotlight. It can either make him feel valuable and important, or make him feel vulnerable and defensive. Be careful about what you say. Even a small criticism, a raise of the eyebrow, or a disgruntled look directed at a meeting participant is observed by everyone, and it makes the meeting participant feel diminished and insecure. You must use your position as the meeting leader with tremendous care, maintaining the self-esteem and self-respect of each meeting participant, irrespective of how you might feel about his or her ideas or comments. If you're not happy about something another person does or says, remain calm and positive in front of the others and take the situation offline. Arrange to meet with the person privately. The rule is to praise in public, but to appraise in private. Avoid barriers to communication. When you sit opposite a person across a table or desk, for example, the furniture can act as a physical and psychological barrier in communication. It subconsciously suggests that you are on opposite sides and that your points of view are antagonistic. To resolve this dilemma, one of the best things you can do is to ask to sit kitty-corner to the key person. When you sit next to a person rather than opposite him, unseen psychological barriers seem to drop, and you communicate with greater warmth and friendliness. Don't be afraid to make it clear that you would prefer not to sit opposite the person, but would prefer to sit next to him or her where you can have direct eye contact. In all my years, I've never had a person opposite me resist or refuse this request. In most cases, he had not thought of it himself and was happy that I brought it up. So let me summarize. The mark of the professional in every field is preparation. The more thoroughly you prepare for a meeting of any kind, even with just one other person, the more effective you will appear and the better results you will get. The power is always on the side of the person who has prepared the most thoroughly. The individual who comes into a meeting unprepared has diminished power and sometimes no power at all. Your job is to speak to win on every occasion. Your goal is to be seen as an important player in every conversation. Your aim is to persuade others to your point of view and to make an impact on your world. You do this by thoroughly preparing for every meeting that you hold or that you participate in, and you do it by using techniques that make others feel important.